Okay, that should be us recording. And big welcome to all of our guests who are here in person, and a huge welcome as well to those people who are joining us on the recording. We really appreciate you coming along. As ever, we always want to introduce ourselves, because anytime I go to anything, I want to know, who are these people? Like, why are we listening to them? So my name's Marion McLaughlin. I'm the CEO at Autism Understanding Scotland. My background is in education, but about 5 years ago made the transition working over to the third sector. I'm one of the spokesperson for the Scottish Government Different Minds campaign, and if you haven't checked out the new phase of the campaign, please do, because they animated me and I am super cute in 2 dimensions, so definitely worth checking out. I'm late diagnosed autistic, and I'm also the parent of an autistic child. Flick, who are you?
Hi. I'm Felicity, or Flick Goodhall. Some of you might know me as one, some might know me as the other. It's fine, I'll answer to most things. I'm the senior autism practitioner here at AU Scot. I am also parent to 2 autistic children and late diagnosed autistic myself. I'm a former English tutor, and I'm also one of the co-chairs on the Aberdeenshire Autism Strategy Planning Group as well. And Anne, are you around to introduce yourself?
Hello. So I'm Anne Brown. I work as an autism practitioner at AU Scot. Previously, in a former life, I was a learning support worker in schools, or a pupil support assistant. I've also got a qualification in person-centred counselling. I am the parent of an autistic child, and I'm late diagnosed myself.
Yeah. So as ever, all of us here speaking are autistic ourselves. So this is a really, really personal thing for us, because we absolutely love our autistic identity and our community. So today we're going to have a little look at the background of Autistic Pride. We're going to have a little look at, Autistic Pride Aberdeen, because that's what we've been running. We started running it 5 years ago. We're going to have a little look at that. We're going to talk about autistic joy, sensory bliss, and then our favourite bit, the info dumps. And I can't wait, because I get so excited when I hear people info dumping about the stuff that they really love. So I can't wait for that. So let's see what we've got. The background for Autistic Pride. So, I mean, we cannot take credit for starting Autistic Pride. That did not happen. It was first celebrated back in 2005, so quite a long time ago now. And I'm quite looking forward to that 20th anniversary coming up. It'd be really cool. It was started in the spirit of other minority community pride events. So it was definitely taking inspiration from things like Black Pride and LGBT plus Pride. The date, the 18th of June, was chosen because it's the birthday of the youngest member of that group. And the youngest member of the group was a young trans woman. And so the close links to the LGBT plus community was evident right from the get-go. Well, it started out quite small. Autistic Pride is now celebrated globally. And this year there were celebrations. We've had a couple in Scotland already. So we've had ours, and Autism Rights Group Highland had one, but next month we've also got one that's being run by Amaze in Edinburgh. But there were also celebrations in New York and other places around the world. During COVID, we were really, really proud to be part of the Autistic Pride Alliance and keeping Autistic Pride alive online. And in 2020 and 21, we worked with some fantastic allies, some of whom are here with us this evening, to make sure that we were still putting on events online that people could join in, including big info dumps, including talking about the brilliance of the autistic community. Pride is really a political statement as well. We have so many people telling us that we shouldn't be proud of our identity, that being autistic is something to be ashamed of, whether they say it explicitly or whether they imply it quite heavily. And I think it's fair to say that, like, every year we have people tell us that we shouldn't feel proud. Every year we get a couple of people who get in touch with us and say, you shouldn't throw autistic pride. Sometimes it's because some autistic people don't like being autistic. And that's fair. Not everybody has to like being autistic. but that's exactly why we have to throw events like Autistic Pride, because it's really a rejection of that traditional narrative that we get and a reframing of what being autistic means. Is that fair to say, Anne and Flick? Would you?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's really important, isn't it? Because I think that for a long time, autistic people didn't realize that they could be proud of their identity and things like that. And actually kind of getting that message out there has really meant that a lot of people's sort of self-worth has increased and their mental health has improved, and it's just been really beautiful, and sort of seeing people really embracing that identity, learning about the really positive aspects of being autistic and realizing that some of those strengths they've got are because they're autistic. That's a really beautiful part of the job that we do, I think, isn't it, Anne?
Absolutely. Embracing our autistic identities and working with what we've got means that we can flourish as autistic individuals, and meeting our community as well. Super important.
I did love it last year when someone said to us that they'd never seen so many autistics out in the wild. Whenever we were at our Bubbles in the Park event, that just, it made me smile, and it has continued to make me smile throughout the entire last year. And I genuinely think that it's going to continue to make me smile forevermore. So to the person who said that, like, sincerest of thanks, because when I'm having a tough day, that is one of those things that sometimes just helps me quite a lot, knowing that, you know, that's there and how much that community means. So we've kind of touched a little bit on Autistic Pride Aberdeen. So will we have a think about it more? I'll admit I started Autistic Pride Aberdeen with our wonderful colleague Julie back in 2018. I got my own autism assessment and diagnosis, and I wanted to celebrate, to be honest. I knew that this was a good thing. I wanted to celebrate our identity. I wanted to celebrate our culture. And I really wanted to celebrate, finally, after 39 years, knowing who I am, which I hadn't really done before. And I thought this is a really, really good thing. And I wanted to bring that spirit of celebration to other people as well. Now, different Autistic Prides celebrate in different kinds of ways, but we really wanted ours to be fun and accessible. We wanted to bring other people together so then they could see that they weren't out there alone. We, as we said sort of previously, it's that key aspect in changing the narrative around what it means to be autistic. And above everything else, we just want people to have some fun. You know, a lot of the time as openly autistic people in the world can be quite difficult, and we can have a lot of, you know, stigma, discrimination. But that is only part of the story about what it means to be autistic. And getting to spend time with other autistic people, with other really good allies, really does help to improve that sense of self. And that first year, whenever we put on Pride, Jules and I, we thought, we have no idea how many people are going to turn up. If we get 10, that's cool, right? You know, that's maybe 10 people that we've helped to sort of improve their idea about what it means to be autistic, improve their sense of self, and that's a really good thing. And we had 100 people turning up roughly, which was much more than we expected, and it was beautifully overwhelming. And we've consistently seen year on year more and more people coming along. And I think, like, how many folks do you reckon we had this year?
Oh, I don't know. It was probably getting on for 200, was it, that we had all in?
Yeah, maybe even a little bit more. I don't know, but roughly.
It was a really good turnout, and everyone kept saying, "Wow, I wasn't expecting so many people here." So, yeah, good sign that we had lots of people.
Yeah, and I have to, even though that first Pride, my reasons for putting it on was, I'll admit, it's kind of selfish, I guess, because I wanted to celebrate getting my assessment. But I think since then, seeing how much it's meant to other people has meant I don't feel like there's a ownership over it. I think it belongs to everybody. And I think that's a really lovely thing. So this is a photo you took this year, isn't it?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
This was our wonderful colleague Julie had managed to make just an absolutely enormous bubble, and so Marion and I took photos of each other through the bubbles, as you can see Marion there taking a picture. But yeah, that's the kind of size of bubbles that you can get when you have such a brilliant recipe, because yeah, our lovely Julie makes it herself. She makes the bubble mix herself, so yeah.
With the help of the lovely Forbes family, they help out too. But we put the bubble mixture up online earlier this week.
Yeah, so if you want that recipe for really good big bubbles, then yeah, check out our social media and that, because it's up there.
This one was from last year as well, and we just had so many folks just milling around and having a lovely time. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever get bored of looking at those pictures of the bubbles, because they're just enormous. I took some home for my family and I to play with, and oh my goodness, I think we played for hours with them as well. We did something else fun this year, didn't we?
Yeah, we decided to mix it up a bit, and for the first time we did some storytelling, didn't we? We had a lovely storytelling session where we read some books by autistic writers, and yeah, I think that was really well received, and one of them was this lovely A Day with No Words. That was the one that you read, wasn't it, Marion?
I love it, partly because I experienced quite a lot of situational mutism. So there are plenty of times on a regular basis where I'm using AAC as well, augmented alternative communication. And so having a book where people are using different kinds of communication all the way through, I find really validating. And there's also a page in it where one of the children had some people saying something not very kind, and the expression on the mama's face when that comes, it is pure chef's kiss. It's gold. It's wonderful. And every time I see it again, I feel really validated, you know, as a parent, as somebody who uses AAC. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And the other books that we've read, Remarkable Remy and Just Right for You by Melanie Hayworth from Reframing Autism, were brilliant. And I really loved that we had some feedback, some people saying that the storytelling session was one of their favorite parts of the day. So many adults joined in.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the children were too busy having fun with the bubbles. So
but how many times do you get to go to a storytelling session as an adult as well?
This is very true.
Okay, storytelling is brilliant. I love our awesomeness of autism that we put together every year. So for anyone who doesn't know, one of the things that we did that very first year that we threw a Bubbles in the Park event for Autistic Pride, we went round a bunch of autistic people and we asked them, what do you love about being autistic? What are the things that make you really, really happy? And we put them into a booklet each year. And we're always happy to get folks submitting entries that they can then sort of join in with. And it's lovely. And I like being autistic because that's how my brain is. I love my life. I mean, that's just beautiful. I love the friends that I've now made. I found my people. And Shannon's one here, again, that's another one that always makes me smile. The thing that I love most about being autistic is autistic joy. When I experience autistic joy, it feels like the most beautiful flowers start to grow from within me. Sorry, and you're grinning away. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It really is. And Shannon has put her hand up there and said that that's me. So you're here to hear your name being mentioned. So that's great too. That's what's making me smile so much.
But honestly, all of them, I cannot pick out a favorite because they're all absolutely beautiful. And obviously, you know, mentions of Star Trek, just totally my jam. I'll not talk about that just yet. And do you want to talk about autistic joy? Do you want to have a wee chat about that?
Oh, autistic joy just gives me so much joy. Just even thinking about it makes me feel quite stimmy. So yeah, it is like waking up as a child on Christmas morning or waking up as an Anne on Christmas morning, because I still get that same excitement. That has never subsided for me. And I think that's the beautiful thing about autistic joy. We keep those big feelings. We don't grow out of that intense elation. It's a wonderful feeling. Often related to our special interests. So yeah, I'm going to find it really hard sitting still in my seat when I get to INFODUMP later on. I'm already tapping my feet in anticipation. So it's like the opposite of a meltdown. Instead of an explosion of kind of negative emotions or sad emotions, it's an explosion of joy. I really feel like it wants to burst out of me, and that's why I do a lot of stimming. It has to come out of my body in some way. So that could include flapping, clapping. Sometimes I get jazz hands going on, jumping up and down, bouncing, just whatever works for you. I definitely do quite a lot of stim dancing as well. And it's definitely one of the best things about being autistic. The fact that we get to experience that, and there's many adults that lose that joy, but just people will tend to keep a hold of that.
Yeah. It doesn't matter that, yeah, you know, some people might think it's very childlike, but actually I think that it's more childlike to think that it's in some way immature to show joy about things, that, you know, that it's somehow inappropriate for a grown adult to be intensely happy about something and to let that expression kind of come out. So yeah, personally, I think that we're the mature ones for thinking, you know what, as adults, it's okay, and it's not just okay, it's beautiful and lovely to express that joy and to feel it and to experience it. So yeah.
And I'm not sad about all those things that I tried to, you know, suppress that joy, because I didn't really know any better at that point. But it's one of the best things about finding out that I'm autistic sort of later on in life, is that I can then experience that again. You know, I remember, and it's a wee story that I tell sometimes, when I found out that DuckTales was being rebooted with David Tennant. I mean, seriously, that felt like Christmas to me. And then when I heard there was going to be a second season, and, you know, things like that, you know, whenever you're bouncing up and down like a small child, but you're not like a small child, you're just like an excited autistic, you know, you can be any age and still feel like that. And I've seen some of the non-autistic people in my life seeing me reacting like that to something that's so exciting. And I swear there's envy in their eyes, that they wish that they could still sort of develop that as well. Wouldn't want that. I think that really leads quite nicely into sensory bliss. And, you know, we love this picture of some autistic glimmers. And Flick, you and I were talking about petrichor recently, weren't we?
Yeah, oh, I absolutely love it when you go outside and you can just smell that kind of earthy smell when it's rained. And yeah, we actually had a lovely, beautiful discussion recently in lunch club about that smell and about that sensation as well, when you can actually like feel the kind of evaporation of rain in warm weather and things, and it's just absolutely amazing. It really is. That's one of my favorite smells, I think.
I so would be adding bees to this, because I've got quite a lot of bees who are exploring my front garden. And do you remember earlier on this year, much to my delight, a small bee decided that it was going to start having little snoozes on some of the dandelions outside my front door. I'd always wanted to see a bumblebee sleeping on a flower. I genuinely, that'd be one of my life goals, right? I'd seen photos of it online so much. And I finally saw one sleeping in oh no, now I've forgotten the name of the flower. Anne, you've got Lego.
Daffodils, is it?
Daffodils, thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited. I can't even remember the name of my favorite flower. And that was brilliant. And then about a week later, a wee bee that we decided to name Beatrice decided that they were going to take up roost there, which was just lovely. And watching fish, I love, right, our offices are right next to Four Pillars, our lovely friends at Four Pillars. They've got fish there, and sometimes I will like, I think I need to go for a trip to Four Pillars to watch the fish. Right. What about you, Anne? Let's hear.
Well, I have had fairy lights up for approximately the past 8 years. They went up and they never came back down again. So I just have them all year round. But I have to say it's probably books. I love the smell of new books. I love the feeling of the pages, just yeah, everything about books and words and reading is really my jam. But I've been getting carried away recently, and I'm going to have words for myself and stop buying so many new books. There's just too many books out at the moment.
There's always space for more books, isn't there? Yeah.
And I think the hobby of collecting books and the hobby of reading books are actually two separate hobbies. Yeah.
I don't want to think about the number of books that are sat piled up next to me that will eventually get read. Yeah, but that's all. It's fine. A couple of days ago, we did have a thunderstorm in Aberdeen, and that for me is another autistic glimmer too. And I remember as a wee child, my dad used to take me to watch thunderstorms together. Sit at the top of a hill in the car and watch as the rain would come down and the lightning would strike all around. And I find it just beautiful and fascinating, so energizing as well. And I totally get that thunderstorms and lightning is not for everybody. It's absolutely not. But for those of us who love it, boy, do we love it. Like, so much.
Oh.
And I've got some lovely bird song going on right next to me too.
Oh, nice. Talking of
Got the
birds,
floor?
yeah, I liked that segue as well. Birds, and then Flick. So, okay, I will try very hard to keep this brief, as we all will. So, when we were deciding what to do our info dumps on, I thought, people are going to be disappointed if it's not Corvids for me, right? It's going to have to be Corvids. So what else could it be? So I thought, yeah, I'm not going to fight it. I'll go for it. So for anyone who doesn't know, for anyone I haven't already info dumped at just a little bit, corvids are that group of birds that includes like crows and ravens and magpies and rooks and jackdaws. So yeah, they're a really smart kind of bird. Like they've been doing more and more research into this, and their problem solving skills are really impressive. They can make tools as well, and it's actually thought that they can some of them can recognize themselves in mirrors, which is quite a big deal as well, because most animals can't do that other than humans and some of the kind of greater apes and things. So that's quite a big deal as well. They can like work out, they actually have a sort of sense of theory of mind as well. They can figure out that their prey and things sometimes might go certain ways due to the layout, even when they can't see them. It's it's that they just show this remarkable intelligence. And I actually used to really have a massive fear of birds, and in particular crows. 10 years ago, if you told me this would be my special interest, I would have just looked at you like you were completely and utterly just talking nonsense, because I thought they were super smart. And I would tell people these birds are clearly intelligent and they are watching you, and people would say, no, they're not, it's fine. Now that I know they are and I was right, I'm actually like, you know what, that's okay. Now that I know they are smart, I can build up relationships with them. They're not scary, it's fine. And you can build up relationships with corvids, and all of those sort of larger corvids that I've listed there have been known to bring people gifts if they feed them consistently. So I have started feeding the local corvids. I gave it a go for a while and wasn't very successful, but then this winter just passed. We had a big load of snow, and all their normal food in the kind of area was covered. So we've got a massive number of rooks and quite a big number of jackdaws, one family of which actually nest in our chimney stack, much to my husband's annoyance. And so, they started kind of visiting our bird feeder. And this picture on the right is my garden, my rooks, as I call them, my rooks. And you can see a bird feeder up the top there. And all the food was sort of dropping onto the snow from where the smaller birds were eating it. And then the corvids were coming along and eating that. And so I thought, ooh, they're actually coming to the garden, right? This is my opportunity. So I started putting food out on that stump that you can see there, that tree stump, in the hope that they would keep coming, and it was successful. Yay! So that was super exciting. And I've continued, and every morning around 8 o'clock I go out and I feed them. And because they're kind of They will eat almost anything you've probably seen. Crows at the side of the road, like picking bits of leftover McDonald's, and obviously they eat carrion and things as well. So they are omnivorous. But yes, I make sure I put out stuff that's good for them, so they get a little mix of dog kibble and dried mealworms soaked in water, so that they're getting some of their hydration. And then they also get peanuts in the shell, because that I had heard that was Corvid's favorite. And yeah, they really do love it. And also a good scattering of some sunflower hearts as well. And yeah, that goes down a treat every morning. And we're at the point now where they will remind me if I'm late. I hear them out there calling to me if I'm late. They're still very flighty, but I did have one just last week. I was reading in the garden and it did hop down onto the stump whilst I was sort of just out of frame, that you can't see in this picture. So that was very exciting, and they're clearly getting a bit more comfortable. So yeah, it's quite interesting thinking about their nesting habits as well. Crow nests look like that really classic, if you're a kid and you're picturing a bird nest, crow nests are that. They're like, the sticks that are sort of like a pencil kind of length and thickness, making up like a lovely kind of bowl shape with softer kind of moss and stuff in the middle. But magpie nests are really impressive. I've been fortunate enough to actually see magpies building a nest in the previous house that I was in, and it's like a big ball, and they have like 2 different entrances. But the really impressive thing is that if they think they're being watched building the nest, then they will abandon that one but keep building it as a decoy, and then go and build another one elsewhere that they've not been watched building, so that nobody comes to raid their nest. And last thing before I pass on to the next info dump is that they've all got some amazing collective nouns. I love some of the collective nouns for corvids. Some of them are not so good. An unkindness of ravens for ravens. So I didn't include that one, but my favorites for them. For crows, my favorite is murder. I do love the fact that you've got a murder of crows, and I do have a hoodie that one of my lovely sisters got me that's got 2 crows on it, and it says attempted murder, because there's not quite a big enough group there for them to be considered a whole murder. And my favorite collective nouns for ravens is a conspiracy, not an unkindness, because that's horrible, but a conspiracy. I like that one. For magpies, a mischief of magpies, also getting the alliteration in there. That's lovely. A building of roots. And yeah, they are quite stocky birds compared to the rest of the corvids. And for jackdaws, if you've ever heard the little noise that they make, they sort of don't croak in the same way as a lot of other corvids. They have that sort of chirrupy noise, but you get a load of them together, and it makes sense that it's called a clattering of jackdaws. So yeah, I wanted to share some of those with you as well. Okay, kept that, I think, short enough. So Anne, would you like to give us a bit of an info dump on axolotls, because I'm very excited about this one.
Yeah, absolutely. The first time I ever saw an axolotl, I was in primary 3 I would have been 7 years old, and I saw a picture in a book, and I instantly fell in love with their sweet little faces. So yeah, axolotl, pronounced axolotl, it translates to water dog. And they have a connection to a mythological connection. So it is a dog-headed Aztec god in mythology who basically turned himself into an axolotl to prevent having to sacrifice himself. So that's why he's an axolotl. Often referred to as Mexican walking fish. They're not actually fish at all. So they're amphibians. They're in relation to the salamander, and they have a very limited natural habitat, and it's in some freshwater lakes and ponds just on the south side of Mexico City. Also, unfortunately, they do get tested on quite a lot. So you find them in labs, but a lot of people keep them as pets too. So they never outgrow their juvenile stage, a phenomenon called neoteny, which I just find really interesting. So basically it is the in-betweeny stage on their way to salamander, but not quite a full salamander. They can live quite a long time as well. They can live 10 to 15 years. My last axolotl that I had, who was called LC axolotl. I've also had one called AXOLOTLS, which was a bit unimaginative, to be fair. But I don't have ideas. I'd used all the names for the first one. So they both lived until they were about 12 years old. So you can get a variety of colours, and this one in the background, also you can't see its little face, but it very much looks like that. Yeah, so they come in a variety of colours, and that was the colour that both mine were. They can regenerate their limbs, their lost limbs. So if they lose a leg, they can regrow it. Apparently, up to 5 times, and then it starts to become a little bit smaller because of scar tissue. But yeah, I just find it amazing that they can do that. And they actually swallow gravel, so you have to be very careful about what you use in the tank. Nothing just too small, it's got to be just the right size. So they use that, it helps them break up the food that you feed them. So they like a variety of things, frozen mealworms and things like bits of chicken or frozen shrimp. Yeah, so yeah, they use the gravel to help them remain buoyant as well, keep them the right way up, which seems a bit strange that they'd have to eat rocks to do that, but there you go. And I think the thing that, besides the fact they look like they're always smiling, it was the feathery gills that got me. I just think they look so cute. It looks a bit like a mane. Yeah. And also they keep their gills, they can actually breathe through their skin. And they've got functional lungs, so they've got it all going on. They have like 3 different ways that they can breathe, so they're making sure that they're going to stay alive. But super sensitive to temperature changes, so they're actually quite difficult pets to look after. Anything out with the range of 15 to 18 degrees, and then they start to suffer a bit, and they end up with sometimes with fungal infections in their gills. So yeah, what can I say? I just love axolotls. And quickly before we started the webinar tonight, I was like, oh no, I forgot to go and put on my t-shirt. So I axolotl questions. I love that t-shirt because as an autistic person, I do ask a lot of questions, but also I get to wear an axolotl. Yeah, so I always thought they looked a wee bit like aliens. They don't look quite like anything else I've ever seen before. And I am looking so forward to Marion's INFODUMP because I don't know enough.
Well, I have to thank you, Anne, actually, for getting me interested in axolotls. Because I saw them in nature documentaries and I thought they were cool. But then I heard you talking about them and now I know they're cool. And I really do love how so enthusiastic you both are. Like, I've heard both of you infodump about both of those subjects quite a lot in the past, and I'm still learning new things. So thank you. I'm not going to talk about Star Trek, except that I am, because obviously I am. I couldn't help it. I mean, I was there trying to think, what on earth do I want to talk about? And clearly, for me, it kind of has to be. I grew up with a massive Trekkie. And when I was a kid, I used to watch the original series all the time. And you know, the original series TOS started way back in 1966. That's when it was first aired, the 8th of September in 66. And it really is thanks to Lucille Ball, which I know so many people get surprised about. But Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, went to Lucille Ball's studio, Desilu Studios, and pitched this idea for the show. They made a pilot, but it wasn't very successful. The Cage is actually, it's not a bad episode for anyone who's seen it. But the studio was like, yeah, we don't like it, we're not going to do another one. But Lucille overrode her board and poured her own money into it. So a second pilot could be made, which then sort of developed into the original series, which really kind of started everything off. So we quite often affectionately refer to her as the godmother of science fiction on television, because without her, Star Trek wouldn't have existed. And there are so many other shows out there who really take their cue from Star Trek, who are massively influenced by it. And I think, George Lucas has said that Star Wars wouldn't have happened without Star Trek. And you can see the influence of both of them quite often, which is just absolutely beautiful. To date, there's about 12 TV shows and 13 movies. So if anyone who's not watched Trek before thinks, oh, that's really interesting, I think I might get into it, but that looks like a lot. Start small, just like pick one that you think looks interesting and maybe, go with that. There are some shows, Paramount has them all. So it's quite easy to sort of, get started in with some of them. Some of them are more comedy. So things like Lower Decks is like out and out comedy an awful lot of the time. Some of them are an awful lot more serious. Some of them, like the last season of Picard, was really nostalgic. And for those of us who grew up watching Next Generation, Picard, to me, that last season was just a love letter to those of us who've been fans for the Next Generation for quite a long time. There are some amazing crossovers that happen, and I think Star Trek is one of those first places that those kind of crossovers happened. In the original series, they reference that failed pilot that didn't happen, which is absolutely brilliant. Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which I'm completely obsessed with at the moment, and this evening when family members go to bed and I get left in the living room by myself, I can't wait to start watching it, the new episode that's out today. Star Trek Strange New Worlds, that's the characters that were in the pilot that didn't happen. So those characters are in it, which is absolutely brilliant. One of my most favorite crossovers, it's really difficult to decide, because the first episode of Next Generation had Dr. McCoy in it, which just really sort of gave that stamp of approval, I felt. It was lovely. But my most favorite, I think, if you had to push me today, would be the DS9 Trouble with Tribbles crossover episode. I love Tribbles, and I have my very own Tribble here with me for Klingon detection purposes. That episode is just wonderful. It's set in the middle of a really dark period. The people are in a war, there's lots of difficulty going on, there are lots of episodes around about it that are dealing with some really serious issues, and then right in the middle of the series there's this all-out fun, and it's such a surprise to get it, and getting some of the actors from the original episode I thought was just genius. It was absolutely beautiful. It tackles so many of the issues that we experience today, and sort of looking at discrimination and the way that we think about what humanity is. Star Trek is very good at doing a courtroom episode and having a think about, where do we stand on this issue? How important is this? And I love the disability representation that we have in it. Disability in Star Trek is never something that needs to be fixed or cured. Geordi, anytime anyone said, why don't you just get your eyes fixed and get rid of your visor, very quickly put them in their place every damn time, because there is nothing wrong with him being the way he is. There is nothing wrong with disabled people being disabled. There is something very wrong with the society that doesn't support them. And, as an openly disabled person who's autistic and has physical disabilities, that really resonates with me. And that makes me feel so hopeful about the future. There are so many autistic coded characters. Like, I can't even start with who's autistic coded and who isn't, because there are just so many of them there. Although I think one of my favorites has to be Tilly from Discovery. Like, I know not everybody loves disco. I get it. And there are some seasons that you could argue were better than the others, but let's face it, it's got Michelle Yeoh in it. So, a lot of that's got to be really good. But Tilly, to me, just screamed neurodivergent. And the actress who plays her has said that she feels so honored when people come up and say that they feel themselves represented in that. And if I don't stop now, I'm not gonna. And as much as I love info dumping about my favorite subject, I think I should probably stop. Would that be fair? Will we stop and we'll have a little listen to some other folks info dumping?
I was
Because
gonna
people are
say,
talking about,
I was
yeah.
gonna say, we love info dumping, but we also love listening to other people info dumping. So
we do. So I'll stop recording for just now. And thank you for everybody who's listened to our info dumps. I think we could go on all day, right?
oh yeah, easy,
let's
easy,
stop.
all week, yeah.
And for those of you who are joining us on the recording, thank you so much for sharing. We hope that you got a lot out of it. And if you want to send your info dumps in to us, we are all about that. Thank you.